Hello, everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. All right, so last video, I introduced the concept of the vertical line test and how to determine if it's a function. So here, I'm going to do more examples. So I'm going to pick maybe one that has a quadratic equation, and I'll pick another one that has a different form of polynomial, okay? So let's say we have just a quick reminder, I told you for the vertical line test. So basically, for a particular function, you draw the graph. So when you draw the graph, you now draw a vertical line. So if the line cuts the curve at just one point, it's a function. But if it cuts the curve at more than one point, it's not a function. So let's say we have y is equal to, let's say, 5x squared plus, let's make it 2x raised to power minus 1 over 4. And you are being asked, is this a function? All right. So usually what I tell students is when you have questions like this, try as much as possible to simplify it to the barest minimum, so it can bring out all possible manipulation that this particular equation will go through. So for instance, if you look at this question here, you have y is equal to 5x squared plus, I can break this based on the laws of indices, because remember the laws of indices, a raised to power m n is the same thing as a raised to power m n. Do you remember this? So I can break this as well. So I can say this is the same thing as 2x minus 1 over 4, right? So applying the laws of indices first, it's going to be y is going to be equal to 5x squared plus 2. This is something that's saying x raised to power minus 1 over 2 multiplied by 1 over 2. Are you seeing something? So remember from the previous video, I explained to you that square root is not a function. I showed you the graph for square root graph. So for those that missed my previous video, please go back and have a look. So I told you that any functions or any equation that have a square root is not going to be what? A function, because we tested it and we saw that when we drew a line for a square root of x, it meets at what? 2 different points. So you can see from here that we can rewrite this equation now, and you're going to have a square root there. So you can see you're going to have y is equal to 5x squared plus 2. Now, this half is what? Square root. X minus 1 over 2 plus or minus, sorry for that. So it's going to be square root plus or minus. I remember I told you that the root produces 2 values. So because it's going to be either plus, it's going to be minus. So that means because of this particular equation cannot be a function. All right. So remember I said it's very easy. So what you can do, you can want to try this as well. You can plot the graph, okay? And if you plot the graph, you will see it as well. But because I don't want to do that today, okay, because I'm not talking about graphing, you have to look at my previous videos on graphing of functions and graphing of equations, so you can have a look at that. But what you can see here is that because if you see any roots, okay, if you see any square root in any equation, definitely that cannot be a what? A function. Is that okay? So that means you have y is equal to 5x squared. We simplified it and we found out that in the manipulation of this, that there was a what do you call it? There is a square root there. Okay. I remember anything raised to power half is square root. Is that making sense? So let's pick another example here. So let's say we have y. Where's my cursor? Okay. We have y, maybe let's say it's equal to 7x 1 over 3 minus 3x minus 1. And you're asked, is this a function? Okay. Definitely, if you draw the graph for this, you will notice that the graph, there's a rough sketch, you notice that the graph will look something like this. Okay, when you plot this graph, you notice that it will look something like this. So looking like this now, definitely you know it's not it's going to be a function, because if you draw the vertical line at any point, can you see? You're just cutting it at one point. You draw here, it's cutting at 1 point. You draw here, it's just cutting at 1 point. Is that making sense? So in this example now, this is a classical example of a function. Now, this one is not a function because you will notice that of the square root, meaning that there'll be 2 possible values for this. And if you draw the graph, I'll give it to you as an assignment. Okay. So draw the graph for this. And when you draw the graph for this equation, you will see clearly that what? When you do the vertical line test, the line is going to cut it at 2 different what? Points. Okay, at more than 1 point. Is that okay? So that is that for that. Okay, so basically, this will bring us to how to determine a function. I'm only going to use the vertical line test here. You can go back home and you can practice other methods. And I'm going to want to focus now on the types of functions. Okay, so the next video I'm going to talk about types of functions, whether it's an identity function. What does that mean when you have something like a constant function or a polynomial and the rest of it? I'm going to talk about that in the next video. All right. So as usual, if you have any question, feel free to put it in the comment section or just send me a message and I'll try and respond to you. And always remember that if there's a square root in the equation, it will never be a what? A function. All right. All right. Thank you very much. And I'll see you in the next video where we talk about the types of function. All right. Thank you very much.